So one of the final things I want to talk about with the Pro Tour finale is the format itself. As a fan, I absolutely loved it. But do you think that the format played into why we didn't see 3 of the top 4 pros in the finale?
Yeah, it's not fair to the top pros. Now, there is a way you could do it. So if you aren't familiar with the format, the way it worked was the top players had buys to further rounds. So guys, if you were a lower seed or a worse seed, you were had to play more rounds. So if you did make it far, you had maybe 2 rounds under your belt before you're playing the top dogs.
Yeah.
Who are just walking onto this course. They may have had a practice round or 2 under their belt, but like they're not warm.
It's been days.
Right. They're not warm. So like if you're a guy like Eric Oakley who made a little bit of a run, like, you're feeling very confident, whereas somebody who might be better than you just walked onto the course, they don't really know what to expect. So it was unfair in that way. I think the format was still entertaining. Now, one way they could do it is they could do it like the FedEx Cup does it in the PGA Tour, where instead of doing it like that, the advantage they give to the better seeded players is you give them a stroke head start based on where they're seated. And then everybody else just has to catch up over multiple rounds. That's one way to do it. Now, on the men's side, that could stay interesting depending on how they do it. I was say that there were days where like if you give a guy a good enough head start, like Paul, see you later, he's gone.
Yeah.
But it could happen. But another way you could do it and keep the format is to change courses. You'd have to do it in the right area, but you have to change a course every time.
So you're saying like 4 different courses to where
right, so that
everyone's stepping onto the course
for the first time.
time.
Yeah, because I love the format.
No, because that would give the players that are later in the rounds an advantage because unless you close the courses, they could practice while the other players are playing. So okay, well I know I'm starting on Hornet's Nest on day 3, so I'm going to play Hornet's Nest days 1 and 2.
It's better if those guys get a slight advantage than the guys who are they earn those seeds.
Yeah, I guess you can look at it one of 2 ways. So my defense for this format, because first off, I think this format is extremely interesting and engaging for the viewer.
Yeah, because you're just staring at the cut line the whole time.
Exactly. There's that cut line. You're wondering like when Paul's on the cut line, that's exhilarating. You know what I mean? When anyone's on the cut line, it's exhilarating because now there's like 2 battles. There's the battle for the top, which doesn't really matter until the final day.
And that's the thing.
There's the battle for the cut line.
My thing is, so if the guy in first runs away with it, it doesn't matter because everybody's playing. First place is essentially fourth because it doesn't matter where you finish. So like it always is close around that cut line because 4 guys aren't going to run away with it. Yeah. Maybe 1 or 2 do, but then that cut line's always going to be close. So that's what made it really interesting.
And that's exhilarating to me.
Yeah,
I love that.
I love that.
And so I think the argument to keep the format is the advantage that the players who had the buys is that they are the best players in the world. So you should expect
not good enough.
How? You should expect Paul, Ricky, Eagle to be able to come out cold and compete.
That's not fair to them. They earned that seed. They should get more than just like they shouldn't be at a disadvantage.
I feel like that evens the field out. I think that's why we saw parity. Is because you gave the players who didn't. Yes, as far as earning the seed, sure. And I guess since this is the way they get the bonus out,
they played an entire season to get that spot. They should not be under any disadvantages.
I guess that's valid.
Because then they'd want to play as a lower seed.
Well, as far as if this was just a straight up tournament and it didn't affect their bonuses, like if they got a bonus for being that first whatever place and this was like the just finale tournament, then I think putting them at a disadvantage
that would be
makes
one
sense.
thing, but this is like
I guess since this is the like way you get your bonus,
yeah,
then that is a little bit of a bigger deal.
But
what I'm just saying is like it did kind of even out the playing field to where you have Eric Oakley was like he beat Paul by 2 strokes and was like 2 strokes away from qualifying or 1 stroke maybe away from getting to the final day because he had that time to warm up the first few days.
Yeah. Well, my thing too is if you let's say okay, so maybe 4 courses are tough to find. Okay, so let's just do 3, take off a round, and let's have more than 4 people in the finals.
Well, no, you could do 3, and instead of taking off a round, you don't have to play a new one for the finale because everyone played to get into the finale.
That's true. Yeah, okay, so do that then.
So do 3.
Yeah, that's not that hard.
I think that the biggest downside to this format is simply that the course is closed to where you can't practice.
Well, yeah.
So like, if you're Paul, Ricky, Eagle, even I think Kevin, anyone with any type of bye. As soon as the tournament starts, your practice is done. You can go play a similar course locally, or at least just play what you can get warm, but you're not playing those lines.
You're not learning things about certain shots.
Yeah. So you really only had like 2 or 3 days to learn the course. that is the number one, I think, the only disadvantage to this format.
Now, I will say, if the finale were to always be a Hornets Nest every single year, that would also kind of slowly take away that advantage because like guys would know the shots.
Yeah.
To where they could stay warm at another course and then they just know the shots. But it's still a little bit there, but it'd be a little bit less. But I don't think that's going to happen to where it's always a Hornets Nest every year. So,
I mean, it's been there for 2 years in a row.
You know, things change though.
I do think it fits well because USDGC is right next door.
That's true.
Where you're driving 30 minutes up. It's not a big ask. Before, you were going USDGC, the season felt like it was over. Then you're going to Hall of Fame Classic. Then you're going all the way down to Orlando for the Pro Tour finale. And it was like, geez.
Yeah, that's true.
This just feels like it's over. Now it's just you're asking them to go from USDGC. They can stay in the same place they just stayed for the week and just drive 30 minutes up.
It's valid.
Play that. I don't know. I love the format as a viewer, so I hope they can find a way to keep it. They might just say, screw it, we're keeping it exactly the way it is. Because
They might.
I don't even know if this is like a concern or complaint that's being like loudly heard across the disc golf community. It's just that to me, there's clearly something going on when, you don't have the best players in the world in the finale.
Right.
You have some of the current hot ones like Calvin and Chris. But you probably would have expected it to be like Calvin, Chris, Paul, Ricky, or Calvin, Chris, Paul, Eagle, or Paul, Eagle, Ricky. You would have expected at least two of those guys in there somehow.
Yeah.
And to not have them there might not affect anything, but it could. It could have.
With that being said, why do I feel like Austin Hannum being in that Final Four is what really like sets the whole thing off? Because when I think about it, like Kevin Jones, Calvin Heimberg, and Chris Dickerson are like guys that like I have no problem being there.
Well, I have no problem with Austin Hannum being there.
I don't have a problem with it. I'm just saying that's the one
He
that kind of like tips it into like because like you throw one more player in there who's even borderline.
Yeah, if you threw Eagle
then like you were like, oh, it was fine. It's just like it seems like him being in there instead of like he's such like he almost took the spot of like the Paul, Eagle, or Ricky, like the top three guy that we expected to be in there.
Yeah, but I mean. I don't have a problem with it because he earned it.
Yeah, he still played well.
Yeah, he beat all those guys when he needed to beat them. He showed up. He played under pressure. And not only that, he beat Calvin Heimberg the final day. Calvin freaking shot 10 or 11 down, whatever it was, the day before. And then Austin Hannum went out and beat him.
Surprising.
He did it. And so he deserved to be there. He played pretty good on the final day. I wish it would have been closer among all four, but it was kind of like a Chris and Kevin battle, and then a Calvin and Austin Hannum battle when it came down to the end.
Yeah.
So I think the MPO coverage that's going to be on ESPN2, round-wise, just play-wise in general, is not the best foot forward disc golf could have presented. But even if you have a Ricky or an Eagle or a Paul in there, you're not promised a great round.
Right.
But I think it's going to be the FPO is really going to shine because I don't care who you are, if you're a fan of FPO or not, that was an exciting round.
Yeah, it was.
And Haley King was just phenomenal. So I think that is, I think that kind of overrides anything else.
Yeah.